Hey everyone, welcome to Steven Universe, the show where we talk about the universe of Steven Universe. I'm your host, Victor Frost. We're playing a bit of catch up here today, so we're gonna jump straight to the analysis. If you haven't yet seen the episodes, Barnmates and Hit the Diamond, now's your chance to pause this video, go watch that one, then come back. Don't worry, we'll wait. This is your spoiler alert. New episodes, new lore. Let's see what we learned. So Barnmates, as opposed to episodes like Super Watermelon Island and Gem Drill, is one where the principal drama of the episode comes from the interpersonal conflict between characters, rather than from the key points of the larger plot. The principal conflict in this episode is Peridot's struggle to reconcile with Lapis Lazuli, which one could describe as almost Sisyphusian in nature, which is a very hard word. In Greek mythology, the mortal Sisyphus, for his arrogance, was sentenced by the gods to an eternity of pushing a boulder up a mountain, only for the boulder to roll back down, dooming him to an eternal struggle. In Peridot's case, rather than the boulder simply rolling back down, Lapis is perched atop the mountain ready to kick it back down. So maybe it's not so much like Sisyphus and more like Lucy and Charlie Brown's football. But how did we even get to this point to begin with? The drama in this episode comes from our two main actors, Peridot and Lapis, acting from two diametrically opposed perspectives and philosophies, circling around a central event. Peridot using Lapis as an informant. For Peridot, it was just business, and besides, it's different now. She's different. It sucked, but let's just let bygones be bygones and move on with our lives. For Lapis, though, bygones aren't bygones. She just wanted to get back to Homeworld, but instead she got dragged back to Earth and put through an incredible ordeal. So what you have is Peridot, for whom the past has no bearing on the present, and Lapis, for whom the present has no bearing on the past, at odds about how to continue from this point. From the get-go, Peridot assumed that she and Lapis would become instant buds and great roomies, because why not? This was swiftly corrected in the beginning of the episode, when it was made very clear to her that Lapis isn't over their shared history. For Lapis, though, her understanding that people can change and how that counts for something didn't come until near the end of the episode. In both cases, Steven served as the emotional guide for them to these revelations. Which brings us to some unfinished business. After all this time, Homeworld is barely recognizable, and it's certainly not home. And Earth? Well, with no home to go to, it's now a prison all its own. But Steven helps Lapis see that it doesn't have to be. When Peridot found herself stranded on Earth, the first thing she did was check and see how far along the cluster was, and then try to find the way off of Earth. But once she found out getting off planet was no longer an option, she was afraid. And what she was afraid of wasn't the what. I mean, she knew the cluster's formation would kill her, but that, as far as she knew, she had exhausted all of her options. But through something as simple as Steven explaining rain and thunder to her, Peridot's anxiety was lessened because in realizing that others might know things she might not, humility not being one of her strongest suits, her options opened up, and she no longer felt trapped. And as she and the gems worked together to stop the cluster, she began to build relationships with them and no longer felt alone. Knowing that Lapis might be struggling with those same feelings of trappedness and aloneness, Peridot offered her one of the few things that helped her get through her period of acclimation. And even though Steven helped Lapis have the same wow moment that Peridot had, I think Peri's gesture was a little more meaningful, if only because it came from a place of understanding and sympathy and compassion as opposed to just being a coincidence. All that being said, I'm under no impression that Peridot's efforts are what ultimately brought Lapis to the point of actually caring about what happens to our favorite little green space Dorito. It was absolutely the dressing down from Steven that made her realize that she should have given Peridot a chance. Still, after all this, those two have a long way to go, and we still have no idea how their living arrangement is going to be sorted out. I'm personally hoping for an Odd Couple type situation. And I mean the original Odd Couple, not the Matthew Perry remake. And that's what we learned this time on Steven Universe. Wait a minute, I forgot to talk about the other episode. Right, so here's what we learned from Hit the Diamond. Most rubies are dumb as rocks, Ruby and Sapphire can't stop hitting on each other, and Lapis is hilarious. I'm Victor Frost, and I'll see you next time on Steven Universe.